everyone, I'm Angela.
And I'm Natalie.
And we are
Blondetourage.
And we're here today with one of the hottest directors out there, the one, the only, Chris McKay!
Yay! Nice to see you guys. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Chris, on Renfield, a fun and clever film about a relationship between Renfield and his narcissistic boss, Dracula. A film that has so much gore and so much comedy, but a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That's nice. Thank you.
We were so lucky that we got to see the world premiere at the Overlook Film Festival, where you were in attendance along with Nicolas Cage. And we actually got a picture with Nicolas Cage, and we didn't get one with you, so you owe us a picture at some point.
Okay, I'll send you a pticture of me and my dog.
All right, but it really was the best movie-going experience that
100%.
we've had, and we just want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit down and talk with us.
Yeah, that was a fun crowd. That was a really good crowd at the Overlook Film Festival, the Britannia Theater. They were a lot of fun, and the guy you guys are sitting next to, who had got Cage as Dracula tattooed to his leg, that was amazing.
We're like besties with him now.
Oh. Yeah, and I'm from Chicago, and apparently he's from Chicago or the Chicago suburbs or something like that, and at least he got his tattoo over there. So.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's exciting.
He's so thrilled. We talked to him quite a bit.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. Yeah, the guy did great work on his tattoo. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Chris, this was such an amazing horror comedy, and you don't see a lot of that anymore. Why do you think that this genre isn't as common anymore?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I mean, it's hard to do. I think just in general, comedies, are theatrically speaking anyway, they don't do a lot of comedies. Do as many comedies anymore because I just think that people, when they go to a movie theater, they're more and more choosy, and when they go to a movie theater, they want to see something with a lot more spectacle. So that's why the Marvel movies work. That's why a lot of the other stuff that people are going to see work. And I think the comedies can be very hit and miss. And especially with horror comedies, I think they can be there've been a couple of very expensive ones that didn't do very well. And especially in the shadow of Men in Black, there's a lot of people trying to, because Men in Black in some ways is sort of like, it's a sci-fi comedy, but it plays in the horror space, all the the goopy creatures exploding and all that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of people that were trying, in the wake of that movie, the success of the Men in Black movie, the first one, and the subsequent movies too. But they're trying to imitate that kind of thing, and they didn't do very well. So I think people are kind of gun shy, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, what inspired you to get into the world of filmmaking?
When I was a kid, my mom really loved Alfred Hitchcock movies, so she introduced me to Alfred Hitchcock, and I fell in love with like the Universal monsters. There was a network that would play movies like 3:00, 3:30 in the afternoon, something like that. Basically, right when I got home from school, they would play movies in the afternoon, and sometimes they'd do a block of programming, and so they'd do Universal Week. So every week, so every day there'd be a different Universal Monsters movie, or a different Hammer movie, or a different King Kong movie, or sometimes there were love stories or whatever. They were just different. There wasn't just horror stuff; it could be anything. So I got to see a lot of films. I got to be introduced to the horror movies when I was a kid, and especially the Universal ones, and I kind of fell in love with them. And the first book I read was a book called Movie Monsters. The first book I read on my own was a book called Movie Monsters, and it was about all of the Universal monsters. And so I think a lot of that, kind of made me one. And I saw Jaws and Star Wars and Superman and E.T. and Raiders and I've been very lucky to be inspired by a lot of really great films and filmmakers over the years, and that kind of made me want to make movies.
That kind of ties into my next question.
Yeah.
So you grew up up in the same era as us, and horror was so different back then than it is today.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to know what were some of your favorite horror movies, and who were your filmmaker influences?
The you know, I saw Exorcist probably when I was way too young. Exorcist was a big movie for me and scared me, especially being raised Catholic. Going to see The Exorcist was really scary. Jaws was John Carpenter. A lot of the John Carpenter movies, you know, Halloween and The Fog, and so, you know, in a lot of these movies I didn't get to experience in the movie theater. I think probably Halloween 3 was like the first horror movie I got to see in a movie theater, maybe. I mean, you know, the ending of Raiders was Raiders Lost Ark was really scary, and that you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, David Cronenberg movies like, you know, The Fly and Dead Zone, and I saw Alien later, but I saw Aliens in the movie theater, James Cameron's Aliens, and that was a big movie for me. And Fright Night, Lost Boys, like those are all movies that kind of, you know, came out when I was a kid and I really loved. And yeah, I mean, and I had a subscription to Fangoria magazine since I was really young, and so I got to see that. And then, you know, the VHS revolution came along, and cable was where I got exposed to other movies that I couldn't see, or was too young, or wasn't born when they came out. So I got to eventually, over the years, I got to sort of absorb a lot of stuff that I was only reading about. I go to the library and read about movies all the time, and so I had a list of, you know, of filmmakers, you know, George Romero and Dario Argento, and movies that I wanted to see. And so, yeah, so VHS was, you know, I was able to pick up on a lot of stuff on VHS and watch that. So, yeah. So, but, you know, and I think movies like Reanimator and From Beyond, Stuart Gordon, his films, because even though they are kind of straight horror movies, they are tongue in cheek a little bit. There are funny moments, and so I always liked, you know, I like movies that they take themselves seriously enough, but maybe not all the way too seriously, and there's a little bit of fun. I think that I think movies need humor a little bit, even if it's gallows humor or dark humor. I think movies need humor every once in a while. I like a movie that has like a full buffet. You know, there's action, there's comedy, there's suspense, there's, you know, thrills of any kind. Yeah, I want a movie to give. I want a movie that gives the audience a full ride.
Right. It's funny you mentioned, you know, some of our favorite movies.
Yeah.
Natalie and I used to, we're sisters. We're not going to say who's older either, but we used to.
Sorry.
We used to stay up really late at night, and you know, when our parents would go to sleep, and we'd sneak down and watch all of the gore and the horror, and we were just so fascinated by that by such an early age. But I do remember you had mentioned Alfred Hitchcock before, and don't you have a tattoo about Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, I got that tattoo.
Yeah. So one of the first horror movies we saw was Psycho, and I just remember how terrifying it was. Do you have a favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie?
Yeah, I mean, Notorious. I'm a huge Notorious fan. It's a movie made in 1946. I like that movie a lot. Cary Grant, Ingrid Bergman. It's a really good. That's one of my favorites. Vertigo, obviously. Rear Window. I can rewatch, you know, over and over and over again. Probably Notorious and Rear Window are probably the most in the most heavy rotation. I love Psycho. I love The Birds. I love some of his weirder movies too. The stuff he was making, like Frenzy, things like that. He's making sort of later in life. I'm a big hit. What movies did you guys watch when you were kids? Like, what were your favorite horror movies?
Favorite horror movies? I would say
The Exorcist,
The Shining,
at the top of the list. The Shining,
Shining, of course. Yeah.
Carrie is one of my favorites.
Jaws.
And
we want to go there. There's supposedly a place where they play it, where you hang out and floats in the water, and they play it on a big screen. So we totally want to go do that.
Yeah.
If
Evil
we could-
Dead.
Oh yeah,
Evil
Evil
Dead.
Dead, of course.
And
And then of course, the Friday the 13th and and
I
then
mean, those are fun to watch, but I don't
Halloween.
Think, yeah.
But the top one I would say for both of us has got to be The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And it's funny, our mom just texted us last night. She's like, "I'm watching The Exorcist. It's the best film of all time." And actually, my mom went to watch Rosemary's Baby when she was pregnant with me.
Oh wow.
And she went to see The Exorcist when she was pregnant with me.
Wow.
People looked at her like she was crazy.
Yeah, your mom's fearless.
Yeah, she is. She really is.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Renfield. What attracted you to the script, and what was your vision for the film after signing on?
I think that the idea of taking a character like Dracula and kind of exploring him through a different lens than we've seen him. We've seen a lot of Dracula interpretations, and the idea of making him this a metaphor for toxic narcissism, and seeing him through the lens of codependent relationship with Renfield, putting Renfield front and center, kind of flipping the traditional way that we've seen Renfield or Jonathan Harker or whatever in various Dracula movies and TV shows and books and things like that. That was interesting to me, doing it with the idea of kind of doing it with comedy, making it fun and funny, but taking the the codependency, the codependent relationship with Dracula seriously at times, knowing that you needed Dracula to be scary but also be funny. There's a lot of challenges in the material that I thought were really interesting and fun to explore. The action, being able to play with some of the action elements and have some fun with that. The visual, I knew that we needed to come up with a very interesting visual style to separate it from other movies, so it didn't look like, it still felt like a horror movie, but didn't look 100% like a horror movie. Gave you permission to laugh. So, and I've been wanting to kind of play with like the Dario Argento, Mario Bava, Basil Gogos kind of color palette, and so that was there was a lot of, when as I was reading the script, those were a lot of things that were coming up. Like, oh, I could do this. I could do, with this material, I could do this. I could have fun with this. But the most important thing was the relationship between Dracula and Renfield, and probably as I was reading the script, the idea of working with Nicolas Hoult came up as when I thought of who could play this role, who's probably the only person that can make this movie work, and I've been wanting to work with Nick for a while, so I was like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to work with Nick, to play with this relationship dynamic, but still do a lot of comedy, have some action, have some splat stick violence, play with this color palette, and see Dracula. I mean, I'm always trying to look for something that's original, or at least original, and as far as like taking a new cockeyed point of view of this material, being original in that way. So that was something that was really appealing to me when I sat down to when I finished reading the script and approached the studio. And then pretty much it was just at that point, as far as like execution, a lot of it was looking for the right partners, as far as the production designer, Alec Hammond and Lisa Lavas, and costumes, and Jamie Price and visual effects, and Chris Brewster with stunt coordination, and Christian Tinsley as the special makeup effects artist, putting a really good team together of people who were kind of dedicated to the same thing and saw eye to eye and knew that the movie was more than just like sort of like a parody, that there was going to be there's going to be try to be as much of a real Dracula movie at the same time as having having fun with the characters and that sort of thing, and making people laugh.
Well, you definitely made us laugh. And I just wanted to interject a little something here. I've actually been a personal assistant prior to what I'm doing now for 3 different people. 2 were celebrities, and can't say who they are, but I was in a toxic relationship with my boss.
Oh, wow.
And
Really?
I love, yes. And I love how you did the whole thing with the group therapy and like giving Renfield the permission to like not tolerate this anymore.
Yeah.
Because whether it's a work environment, a friendship, a relationship, if you're involved in a toxic relationship, a lot of people just choose to stay because they're afraid to get out. And I loved what you did with that.
It was a great message.
Yeah, great message.
Yeah, I like the idea that the movie maybe, you know, especially if something like this has happened to you, whether it's with a parent or a friend or a boss or something, then maybe there's a little bit of there might be a little helpful message in the movie. I always thought that was really nice.
Definitely.
Renfield was hysterically funny, but so graphically violent with tons of blood and gore. The action was so over the top and fun, reminding us of scenes from the original Evil Dead and even Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about how you keep an audience engaged in gruesome scenes like that so they're not turned off by the violence?
Yeah, I mean, it's a variety of things. You know, it's a lot of its tone. You know, whether that's just the overall. I mean, you educate the audience as the movie begins, right? There's some math that the audience is doing as they're watching the movie, and if the filmmakers are doing, you know, a good job or good enough job, hopefully they're educating the audience on what this movie's tone is, or how this movie's going to kind of flow between you know degrees of tone. And so part of it is you got to get the beginning right, and you got to really kind of nail that. And you know, I think that by we think with a little bit of the showing a little bit of the support group, and then immediately cutting to Dracula and Renfield in the past, and establishing that they have a past, and kind of being a little tongue in cheek, like compositing Cage and Holt into these scenes, and then intermixing that with Dracula, obviously, like, you know, destroying people, destroying some of the vampire hunters and that sort of thing in the beginning of the movie, and then blowing up the priest. I think people got a pretty clear idea of what you know, in the first couple of minutes, three or 4 minutes of the movie, what this tone is going to be. We're gonna, we obviously love the past. You get the idea that codependency is going to clearly play an issue in this movie. The Renfield is struggling. You get his moral dilemma right away. You get to see a priest explode, and the guy's, guts his throat get ripped out, and that sort of thing. So right away you're kind of educating the audience on the tone, and then once you establish that, as long as you're trying to play by those rules, audience goes with you. Some of it's with the music, like I said before. Some of it's with the visual, not with the palette, saturated colors and kind of a little more garish, over the top. No, nothing about the movie is meant to be taken seriously. This isn't like a documentary, or like it's not a Michael Mann. The criminal plot isn't like a Michael Mann criminal plot. It's where you really got to pay attention to all the the nuance and that sort of thing. It's a pretty straight ahead story and doesn't take itself very seriously. The things that it takes seriously are hopefully the relationship between Renfield and Dracula, and that's, to me, that's the most important stuff. And like you said. And hopefully when Renfield finds his way out of it, it's something that people can kind of can take to heart and can kind of be warmed by.
I was wondering if you let them play with the characters a little bit, or are you really the type of director that wants them to stick to the script? Can they improv if they're feeling it?
Yeah, I probably go a little. I go wild with the improv at times. I enjoy working with actors. We were working with because we were shooting New Orleans, and there were actors that obviously we brought from all over the world to it, but we also were casting locally too for some of the parts. And so you've got a mixture of people with different kinds of experiences, all good actors and all really committed actors, but lots of different experiences and extras, because obviously with the codependent meeting, you have a lot of extras too. So in situations like that, I put up a bunch of different cameras. I usually run 3 to 4 cameras at a time, and I play it, and I shoot like a play. So I shoot the whole scene, even if there's only certain bits that I want to use, that I know I want to use with certain angles. I shoot the whole scene because a lot of times you get people to kind of, get into their characters, gives people kind of time to develop. You're in it because you're in it for 5 or 10 minutes, at a time. So you're really kind of, you're not just getting a little piece, and you got to kind of ramp up for that one piece and then go. You're kind of marinating in this scene, so you're
That
really
makes
there.
sense.
And because the cameras, because Andy and lighting, I like to shoot as much stuff with practical lights as humanly possible, meaning that I don't want to bring in a lot of extra lights when if it's unless it's really necessary, like for a close-up or something like that, or a special scene. So it's mostly lit from above and off to the sides. Andy hid all the lights above to create that kind of like fluorescent down lighting you get in a gymnasium, and then there'd be some lights on a crane outside the windows, but that's it. And unless we're a handheld, doing a little handheld light for a close up and that sort of thing. So that creates this sense that you can be on camera at any point, because the camera can kind of look anywhere. So everyone has to kind of be on their toes the entire time. Has to always be in character, and I think that kind of created that allowed people to feel freer, as I sort of encouraged improvisation, because they are suddenly they're getting really confident about the scene. I'm letting them kind of go. They can kind of interpret things and have some fun. And there's definitely guardrails that you put up for stuff like that, especially with a comedy, because it's like it can get really loose. But and oftentimes what I'll do is I'll do the first few takes like the script. I'll kind of deviate from the script a little bit, give some people some thoughts and some notes, and let them kind of like try some things, and sometimes I'll tell people to say it in their own words and see what happens. And then oftentimes what happens is we'll do a couple of takes like that, and then we'll kind of come back around to the script and then use what we've learned, because we don't get a lot of rehearsal, especially with a group like that. You don't get any rehearsal with the whole group. I get I didn't even get Brandon and Nick for that scene. We were really we're rehearsing on the day, so kind of some of those things are interacting a little bit like rehearsal. So you're sort of educating yourself, and then you kind of learn some things, and then you try to incorporate that back in the script, and then hopefully you got to make your day, so you got to wrap it up. But I definitely like to play around with improv when I can. I think it's very
fun.
Useful. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing that happened on set for this film?
About a mile from when we were shooting the murder room, where we had the giant guillotine and all the murder devices and things like that, about a mile or less from where we were shooting a tornado touchdown.
Oh.
And so we were all
Wow.
stuck. Yeah, we were all stuck in this abandoned church that we turned into a murder room.
Oh my gosh.
There was already really weird and creepy as it was, because that definitely had like this strange, the way the wind moved through that room. It just had a very ghostly kind of sound that it made. So it was already kind of a creepy place to shoot, and it was a murder room with all these weapons.
Wow.
But yeah, the tornado touchdown, we're kind of all had to kind of shelter in place there for a little bit. So
Goodness.
that was weather was something we had to deal with a lot on this movie in New Orleans. Yeah.
You have to just go with the flow, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have control over any of this.
Right.
So we heard about this famous dance scene, saw a little smidgen on Instagram. Why did you cut that scene, and was it a difficult decision to cut?
Very difficult decision, yes, because Nick did a lot of work, and Kat Burns, who did the choreography, did a lot of work, and we hired a bunch of local dancers and dancers from all over, but primarily a bunch of local dancers to come in and do this scene. It was they did a great job. We had dancing cockroaches and dancing maggots and dancing flies. We had and then really great, and then just dancers that were made up to be people from New Orleans. And the problem was that it basically like between the dance scene and the scene where Renfield gets inspired by the codependent, by Mark at the codependent meeting, and we have the Lizzo song. They were very similar in tone, and they were very close to each other in the movie. And as the movie got tighter, they got closer and closer and closer to each other. And after a while, they kind of felt like they were almost the same beat. So it didn't. Mm-hmm. So it kind of made the second one where he gets his apartment and does all that stuff, kind of made that feel a little bit lesser than. So unfortunately, we decided to cut it. But Nick did a great job. Kat did a great job. The dancers did a great job. Everybody, costuming, we shot in an alley. You know, we'd shot in one night in an alley. In New Orleans, it was great, but yeah, it kind of had to go because it was a little redundant, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess, you know, as a director, you have to make a lot of tough decisions.
Sure.
And, you know, there are people, a lot of people out there who want to know how to get into the film industry. So say a certain duo with blonde hair had a really amazing idea for a horror short. What advice would you give them to get their idea off the ground?
Well, it's a short, it's not a feature.
Right.
Okay. I mean, there are, I mean, I would look in your area to see if there's anybody who can help you shoot, whether it's a scene or, you know, do it, you know, there's no reason why you can't do like a low budget, really low budget version of it. Just a proof of concept. Lots of filmmakers who do that. I mean, the guy that did Smile and I think Lights Out.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
You know, they started as shorts, and they started and they did, you know, they did it as a short. It was really, you know, they played at film festivals and horror, and there's a million really great horror film festivals, and even places like Sundance have a midnight section of their you know, festival and things like that. So you can get exposure that way, and I think that's a good way for you know, you guys want to be writers, you want to be directors, you want to be producers, you want to be all three, a little bit of both.
We want to star in it too.
Oh, okay, great. So you got to get someone who's going to hold the camera, because you can't do that at the same time if you're going to star in it.
What about a selfie stick?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can do this. Yeah, why not? I mean, you do Blair Witch. But I would, I would try, if you think you can find people that are near you, or people that there's no reason why, especially with the tools we have today. I mean, I've got on my iPhone, I've got a little anamorphic lens adapter that you can just put a little it's tiny, but you can put an anamorphic lens on it, and it looks, we shot, all of Renfield anamorphic lenses, and it's just got a different kind of look than a normal lens. And that might be enough of a way, plus whatever you end up doing in post, to mess with the footage a little bit, so maybe it just doesn't feel as clean or as much like an iPhone thing,
Right.
but it's definitely going to have like the 2:3:5 aspect ratio if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Or I would there's no reason why you guys can't go out and shoot something right now with the means and that you have available to you, as long as you can find the right locations that help tell that story. I would at least try to shoot a scene anyway as a proof of concept, let alone try to shoot the whole thing. But that's there's you guys are in Florida, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of great actors, local theater stuff.
Oh, there's Full Sail University too.
Yeah. Lots of places you can draw on for technical people, for actors and things like that. And again, as long as the locations sort of are enough, you can get somebody to help you if you need to dress locations.
That's
or if you find location. I would try to make something, make it yourself, so you can really, because you're going to learn a lot. And it's better to learn. My advice, the one piece of advice that I would say is, this is and this is not new, this is the Pixar advice, but fail fast and fail, fail as soon as you possibly can, and fail as much as you can, so that and learn as much as you can from those failures. So that, and failures is such a loaded word, but it's just like everyone has to learn. You have to learn, like how, it's to learn what you're good at, because you might think that you're really good at drama, and it turns out you're actually really great at comedy. You're gonna find that out on set. The only way you can find that out is by doing these things, making these things, getting your hands on a camera, working with a crew, find out how you like talking to a crew. What area, one of you guys might be really great with visuals, and this could be like a Coen Brothers situation where one of you is really good with the logistics and the other is really good with the visuals, or one's good at talking to actors. You'll just find these things out when you start doing it, because everything else is theoretical, and it doesn't matter until the rubber meets the road when you make something. So I would just start by just making something, take a weekend, do whatever, try to do whatever amount of the thing, the short film that you can, or like I said, a specific scene, but just try to see what it takes to make this thing, and then get in and edit. And you can find people that can cut stuff together. It's, people can cut stuff together on their phones. And,
Yeah,
and
it's true.
you know,
That's amazing
Great
advice.
advice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is this our last question?
Well, no, we got. Do you have time for two more questions?
All right. Well, what is next for Chris McKay?
I don't really know what's next. This will be a short answer, I guess. I don't. Right now, I'm just reading scripts. So I'm just reading scripts. I don't have. I don't have anything lined up. I was working on a few things before I did Tomorrow War, and one of those things became Dungeons and Dragons, and another thing is Borderlands, which is a movie that's going to come out. But those things kind of went to other filmmakers once I took Tomorrow War, and then I went right from Tomorrow War into Renfield. So anything that I was developing has been kind of like has already turned into other movies. So I'm going to try to like read scripts and try to figure out. I want to try to find something as as unique and different as different as from Lego Batman to Tomorrow War to Renfield. I want to try to keep finding things that are original and fun, and I get to play around with genres and actors that I want to work with. And so I'm just I get to dream out loud for a while and read scripts.
Well, we're looking forward to see what you've got coming up next.
Yeah.
And so last and final, and probably the most important question,
Yes.
do you have any desire to do any films where you need two middle-aged blonde sisters to star in the film?
Yes, absolutely. I'm working on something right now. That's the thing. It's a secret project that I couldn't tell you guys about. You asked that first question. I've been working on it for some time now. I got to keep it under wraps, but yes, absolutely. You guys, this was the audition, and you guys passed. So,
Awesome, we
Thank you.
So
Fantastic.
I'm excited to work with you guys.
We're so excited too.
Thank you so much, Chris. I mean, this really was an honor for you to be here today. And you are officially a part of the Blondetourage entourage.
Yes, yay! So everyone's got it now. Everyone has to like and subscribe.
Yay!
Very good.
Yes.
Very, very good. We're impressed. Now, before we let you go, we just wanted to tell you that we have been working on this for quite some time. We're almost done, but
Nice.
we just can't find the legs to Batman.
Oh, wow.
So
Really?
we've been searching around the house. We can't find it. We're missing a piece, but when we're done with it, we're gonna send you a photo.
Yeah, please do. Yes, that's awesome. That's. Do you guys have kids?
No.
Neither one of us.
So you guys are just doing it yourselves.
We just play with Legos ourselves.
That's great. I'll have to send you guys. I'll send you guys a Lego set. I'll send you guys a Lego set for you guys to build.
Oh, Chris, you're so
You're awesome.
sweet and awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It's great talking.